Hello, Americans. I'm Kent McNall, and it's Constitution time for this Monday, October 19th, 2020, 2 weeks and 1 day before the general election. I think every election is called the most important election ever. This may well be the most consequential election ever, and that's easy to translate to most important ever. Some of the things that I've talked about as the reasons that I feel that our democracy is in some real trouble are really accelerating now. The rhetoric of the election, especially from the executive, is not good. A lot of attacks, lock them up, lock her up, lock everyone up. It's not the kind of thing that we want to be hearing in free, fair elections. There's a lot of other things going on as well. But our topic today is going to be a toe dip in the water of, we've learned a little bit about at least the reasons I feel that we've got some problems right now. What at this point can we do about it? I want to have much deeper conversations that we'll have this evening. But I think with only 2 weeks to go before the election, there are things that can be done that we can do. And so we'll spend a little time talking about that. I hope that you've had a chance to really reflect on some of the things that I've talked about as my reasons, and that's what they are. They're my reasons. They're my personal opinion, the reasons that I feel that our democracy is in some trouble. And I hope you've had a chance to reflect on those. Do they make sense to you? Do other things make sense to you? Would you create your own list, or would you be able to augment my list? That's something I hope that you'll find a way to communicate to me. You can do that by emailing through YouTube, or most of you know me, I think, so that's easy for you to do. But this is a time for us to really be thinking about these things, not in the way that we might when we hear the same things drone on every day out of the TV at us through the cable news, but the way that we must as Americans, if we're really going to help our democracy, and it needs help. And I'll keep saying that because I really and truly believe that. And that's why I'm doing this. Okay, so your time is very valuable, and I really appreciate you spending a little bit of it with me, whether you're doing so live or later on the recorded videos that you find on YouTube. But let's go ahead and take a look at some things. The one thing I want to do before we jump in and start talking about what you can do is I want to talk about, at the suggestion of a viewer. Let's see, is that switching? I can't tell if it's, there it goes. Okay, at the suggestion of a viewer, I have put a short video on the YouTube with a list of the 18, was 17, now 18. We'll go over number 18 here just in a second, of my 18 reasons that I feel our democracy and our Constitution is in peril and needs our help. So I want to talk to you about number 18. And I was reminded to do, well, let me tell you what it is first. So number 18, the number 18 reason that I feel our democracy really needs some help is the unsustainable disparity of wealth that's emerged, not just in the United States, but in the world, but particularly in the United States. And the way that our economic fates have become separated in this country between the haves and the have-nots. And I was reminded to add this on because I intended to, by a couple of charts that have been shown recently on several of the cable news stations, which I'm sorry to say I do every once in a while check in on several of them, that show what's happened since COVID started, particularly. As we all know, right after COVID came along, there was a fairly big stock market crash. People started losing their jobs. But what the chart shows is that the wealthy, as represented by the stock market, they've come back all the way. But the not wealthy, especially the poorest in our country, dove down and have stayed down. And that's something new and different. And that's really the news of these charts, is that in past economic problems, the fate of everyone has been the same. We all go down at the same level together and we all come back up together, even though it's disproportional. In other words, a 20% downside for somebody that has $1 billion is a very different proposition than a 20% or 25% downside to someone who is barely making ends meet. Well, now our fates have separated. The wealthy have bounced right back. In fact, in many ways, they're, as measured by the stock market, even better off now. We've all heard numbers of how many billions of dollars the richest have gained during COVID. But the not wealthy are down and staying down. And that will become an increasing threat to our democracy, because at the end of the day, many societies that have this kind of disparity of wealth have discovered why that's not a good idea. Because people who are kept out of that club end up very unhappy about it. And I don't think that's hit us quite yet. Many people are going through economic misfortune right now, but not at the level they could be. And of course, I don't hope that happens. I hope that doesn't happen. But if something doesn't change, it will. And that represents a very significant threat. So before I jump in and talk about some of the things that we can do, even now, 2 weeks out from the election, to put a dent in, to hopefully make an impact on what's happening, because we're not powerless. And if we were, there wouldn't be much point in talking about it. We're not powerless. But I have to talk about the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room, even though I very much want this to be a show that Americans share and discussions that Americans share as Americans, all of us are partisan, and it's hard to get away from that. So when I talk about here's what you should do, what I'm talking about, here's what you should do if you're thinking as an American and you see these threats as real. Because right now, there's one party that's in power and there's one party that's not. And if we're going to make a change, the change that must be made is somewhat obvious. You've got to restore the balance. And it's hard for me to say, here's what you should do if we don't address that. But the simple fact is that for my many friends who lean right, these same suggestions work on both sides of the aisle, but won't, I think, equally change what I see as these threats and what I see as what must happen if things are going to be different. So, without further ado, the number one thing that we can all do is very obvious. We can vote. And I don't know too many people in this election that are admitting they're not going to vote. So don't have to spend a huge amount of time on this one. And now I get to show off a little of my production work for you. Here we go. What did you think of that? Yeah, let me know via email or something. Okay. Number 2. If you see what I see, and you see it one way or the other, then you might have people that you can persuade to see it the way that you see it. And now might not be a bad time to do that. You know, I said, and I've said truly, I have many friends that are on the right, and good people. At some point, we can't keep standing aside, even though with the current leadership, we might get something that we want. We might get that extra Supreme Court justice, or we might get a particular legal decision flip-flopped the other way, or we perceive some other benefit. At some point, we can't keep saying, well, I'm going to get this, and so it's okay to put up with what's happening, because it's not. Now, that's a judgment call on my part. But if we don't think, as I keep saying, as Americans, we're going to get in real trouble. And the kind of trouble that has never turned out good for anybody. You know, I don't want a dictator in this country, ever. And I don't know of any dictatorships that are good dictatorships and benign dictatorships, and a dictatorship I wished I lived under. And I hate to be that extreme, but that's why I'm doing this. So um, I'm trying to actively persuade people, hey, it's time to do something else, even though I completely understand why people want to keep their party in power. That's an easy one. You feel like you're going to get more of what you want, but not this way, not like this. Let's see, went the wrong way there. Number 3, get someone else to vote. We all know lots of people that aren't going to vote, whether they vote our way or their way, or whatever way, they're not going to vote. We have family members, we have friends, and now's the time to vote. This of all times in our lifetimes is a time to vote. So that's a good one there. Okay. Number 4 is financially support a campaign. And no, it is not too late. I am not a huge fan of our system, especially post the Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, that so much money goes into the campaign, so much money. And of course, where does it actually go? It goes to Madison Avenue, and who knows where. It's probably, I'm sure plenty is siphoned off from each campaign for every possible reason. But that's the way it is right now. And so, unfortunately, an awful lot of who wins elections is who can spend the most money on advertising and who does so smartly. But that is the system that we're working within. So it is not too late to financially support key elections, Senate races, obviously in your own state. But put $20 in the mail for your candidate. It makes, there's 300 million people in this country. So if 100 million of them are sending money out, they don't have to send a whole lot out before it adds up to a lot of money. And even though Michael Bloomberg is running around, spending 100 billion here and 100, or whatever, 100 million here and 100 there, the people still have a big voice when it comes to sending money to candidates. And when I say key races, there's 10 key Senate races, and I will provide further detail on where you can send money in an upcoming episode as well. But there are key Senate races, and many of them are very close, and they may come down to who was able to keep collecting money longer than their opponent. So that is definitely something that you can do. Okay, the next one is you can volunteer, or find your own way to do something to contribute to the cause. But many campaigns need volunteers. I think that the election boards of many counties and states need volunteers. There's always a way you can volunteer and help out. Now that's pretty tricky in the age of COVID, but I imagine there are many volunteer positions that you can do from home. Somebody's making all those annoying calls that are being made, but this is certainly one way for you to roll up your sleeves, get involved, get engaged, and contribute. And of all the times in our life, this is a good time to make a contribution. I'm going to keep going the wrong way. There we go. So we talk about this a lot. People talk about this a lot, but I don't know anybody who actually does this. And I am myself, for the first time in my life, going to sit down this week, and I'm going to write letters. And what I'm going to put in my letters to our senators here in our state and the senators that I'm sending money to, and to the leadership of the Senate and the House is what I expect from them. What I expect from them, and they're not doing it. I expect them to make progress for the American people. I expect them to get back to civility, get back to professionalism, um, and either make laws to make up for the lack of civility that has come about, or to um, get that civility back. Because the things are so toxic right now that nothing can get done, and things need to get done. A lot of things need to get done. And I'm going to tell them also that I want this country to get back to having a vision beyond just the next emergency quarterly bill to fund the government because we couldn't pass a budget. That's not an accomplishment. That's the lowest possible bar. We have got infrastructure to rebuild. We have things to accomplish. I'd love to. I personally would love it if some leader was talking about our Mars base. I mean, besides Elon Musk, and thank goodness at least he is. But there's a lot of things for humanity and for our country to accomplish, and we never even talk about accomplishing them. We have no vision. There's no vision out there for us, and if we would create a vision that just included solving our problems, of course we're going to solve our problems before we go build that Mars base. That would be beyond my wildest dream. And I'm going to tell them that that's what I expect. Now I'll tell you what will happen, because I'm sure that some of the senators read some of the letters, and maybe the occasional senator reads every letter that they get. But I think what does happen is that what you register in your letters is at least tabulated, so that a senator can be told, yeah, things are running 2-1 against this issue or for that issue. And it does make a difference. And it's something that not enough people do. And if any of you do that, I'd love to hear that from you. I would love to hear from you. Yes, I write my legislators. I know that one of my issues that I laid out, one of my 18 issues, is that a lot of our politicians seem bought and paid for, and not really connected to their people. And some of them seem invisible. In my own state, we've got 2 senators that I almost never see on TV. Who doesn't? What senator doesn't show up on TV every once in a while? I almost never see them. They're invisible, and so I think that's something you can do, and you can do with meaning, is write a few letters, and dust off your typewriter or whatever you're going to write your letters with, and do it, because it's a way to reach out. Now that's a short list, but it's things that you can do in the next 2 weeks. And there's other things you can do in the next 2 weeks as well. And we will be spending our time together talking about the things that we can do. But things like term limits and some of the real long-term solutions that will address many of the concerns I have, those are much, much bigger project and nothing that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. And I have this informal recommendation, almost more for myself than for anyone else, but try to limit your time with cable news. A lot of us spend way too much time with it, and I know it's not healthy, because it's mentally the constant drone of negativity, almost no matter which station you're watching, is difficult to deal with. So decide how much time you want to spend with it. Half hour, spend that and no more, and use the rest of your time to get your happiness back. And I hope that you're all being safe from COVID, and that too shall pass. Probably not by November 2nd, like some people seem to think, but I hope before too long, because I know that I miss many of you, your friends and people that we love to spend time with, and we'll look forward to doing that again soon. And in the meantime, I will be back with you tomorrow, 5 o'clock, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. And hey, wait a minute, let me do another production number for you here. talented drummer is my son Gregory, by the way. So yeah, on YouTube you can't go using other people's music. They frown on that. So we're trying to come up with our own stuff. Thank you for joining me, and we will look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care, Americans.